All right, welcome everyone to today's Explainer. Today we're going to be looking at some wild, true stories that happened right in some of the wealthiest neighborhoods out there. We're exploring the chilling intersection of extreme wealth, 1980s consumerism, and violent crime. It's really a look at how immense affluence can sometimes completely overshadow basic humanity, creating this terrifying psychological void.
Okay, let's dive into this. When you picture high-end real estate, you usually imagine safety, comfort, and security, right? But what truly hides behind those manicured lawns and towering gates of the ultra-rich? We're going to explore how environments of immense, unchecked wealth can actually cultivate psychopathic behavior. We'll look at a famous fictional case that perfectly captures a whole era, and then we'll pivot to a terrifying true crime story that absolutely shocked the world. Real quick before we jump into the stories, if you're enjoying this explainer, do us a huge favor and hit that like button. And make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified about all our new deep dives. All right, let's get into the stories. So here's our game plan for today. 1. Terrifying stories in rich neighborhoods. 2. Patrick Bateman, the financial elite killer. 3. Are Bateman's crimes real? 4. The Menendez brothers, a Beverly Hills crime. 5. The trial, greed or defense. And finally 6. Psychology in the crime environment.
Section 1. Terrifying stories in rich neighborhoods. Exploring the dark side of wealth.
To really get these stories, we first have to set the stage. The 1980s birthed the whole yuppie culture. It was an era of rapid deregulation and Wall Street booms, where the surface reigned supreme. Appearances, luxury brands, material possessions, they meant absolutely everything. And when everything becomes a commodity, eventually people themselves start being treated as commodities. That leaves a massive psychological void where human empathy used to be.
Section 2. Patrick Bateman, the financial elite killer, a monster created by consumer culture.
Enter Patrick Bateman from the novel American Psycho. He's often seen as the ultimate blueprint of the rich neighborhood killer. Bateman is a wealthy Manhattan investment banker living this chilling double life. He is incredibly narcissistic and entirely obsessed with his physical appearance and luxury goods. So, the crucial point here is that after spending his nights partying in elite, luxury nightclubs, he turns into a brutal serial killer. He is so entrenched in the superficial 80s yuppie culture that he literally views human beings as consumable products. He commits horrifying violence just to feel a sense of control in a life completely manufactured by consumerism.
Section 3. Are Bateman's crimes real? The entanglement of reality and delusion.
Now, the biggest debate about American Psycho is whether Bateman's crimes actually happened or if he's just a wealthy guy losing his mind. The author deliberately leaves it ambiguous. On one hand, Bateman is mimicking real serial killers like Ted Bundy to feel a sense of power. On the other hand, he's the ultimate unreliable narrator. For instance, his lawyer, Harold Carnes, claims he just had dinner in London with a victim Bateman supposedly killed. And when Bateman goes to a victim's apartment expecting a gruesome scene, it's sparkling clean and up for sale. He even suffers explicit hallucinations, like seeing a TV talk show interview a literal Cheerio or getting chased by a park bench. There's even a theory that society is so materialistic that they just covered up the murders to protect local real estate values. Even the author, Bret Easton Ellis, said in 2014 that he honestly doesn't know what's real and what's fake in the story.
Section 4. The Menendez brothers' Beverly Hills crime. When theoretical horrors become reality. While Bateman is fiction, the tragedy of violence born in extreme wealth is very real. Take one of the most famous criminal cases in U.S. history, set right in upscale Beverly Hills. On August 20, 1989, wealthy entertainment executive Jose Menendez and his wife Kitty were murdered in their own den while watching TV. The killers? Their own sons, 21-year-old Lyle and 18-year-old Eric. They fired 6 shotgun blasts at their dad and 10 at their mom. Lyle even called 911 sobbing, trying to trick the police into thinking it was a mafia hit. But then, they went on a massive $700,000 spending spree, buying Porsches, Rolexes, and hiring a private tennis coach. The truth finally came out when Eric confessed to his therapist, Dr. Jerome Oziel, and the therapist's mistress tipped off the police about the taped confessions. Lyle was arrested on March 8, 1990, and Eric surrendered 3 days later after flying back from a tennis tournament in Israel.
Section 5. The trial, greed or defense. Unpacking the courtroom battle.
Before we get into the wild trial arguments, if you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you. Drop down into the comments and tell us what you think. Does extreme wealth breed a different kind of crime, or is it just highly publicized when it happens? Let us know. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide in the courtroom. The first trial, in 1993, was broadcast live and became an absolute media circus, presenting a clash of two totally devastating narratives. The prosecution argued this was premeditated murder driven purely by greed for millions, claiming the brothers fabricated stories of abuse just to dodge the death penalty. Conversely, the defense painted a tragic picture. They argued the brothers acted in self-defense out of extreme fear, claiming they suffered through years of severe physical, emotional, and sexual abuse by a cruel perfectionist father, while their mother was completely complicit.
The outcome of all this reflects just how deeply divided people were. That first trial actually ended in a deadlocked jury mistrial. But in a second trial, which ran from 1995 to 1996, the brothers were convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy, and both were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Section 6. Psychology and the Crime Environment. The Science of Serial Killers.
Now let's anchor these incredible stories back into the science. Modern criminology breaks down psychopathic traits by looking at how intense environmental triggers combine with our innate biological makeup. Basically, it doesn't just look at bad genes, it looks at the environment surrounding them. This brings us to a fascinating scientific concept called epigenetics. Epigenetics is the study of how a person's behaviors and environment can actually cause changes in how their genes are expressed over time. This means that extreme environmental stressors, which, yes, can hide even in environments of massive, unbelievable wealth, can literally alter a person's life course at a biological level. So to summarize the science here, violent crime at this level is the ultimate intersection of nature and nurture. Factors like adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, such as the severe abuse alleged by the Menendez brothers, can drastically impact a person's development. Plus, researchers have found that fundamental dysfunction in psychopathy is heavily linked to the amygdala, which is the brain area responsible for emotional processing. When you combine that biological vulnerability with the deep psychological alienation and void created by extreme materialism, you've got a total recipe for disaster.
So we're going to leave you with this final, thought-provoking question. Does extreme wealth actually create monsters through isolation and these massive consumerist voids? Or does it merely provide the perfect mask for them to hide behind? It's a pretty chilling thought, and honestly one that might just make you look at those towering gates and manicured lawns a little bit differently. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will catch you next time.